New York City backing down here. Did Uber necessarily win, or did they more likely call a truce?
Well, I think they could call it a victory. I mean, this has been a really big push that they've made over these last few weeks. They've spent many millions of dollars to get this legislation scuttled, the legislation being a cap on the number of cars that Uber can have in the city. The city council is quick to say that has been tabled. It's not off the table entirely. So if Uber doesn't uphold its end of the bargain here as part of this deal, we could see a cap in the future.
Jack, you have a history with the Taxi Drivers Association. You told us that you want to help them. Is this the right way?
Hey, Scarlett. Hey, Mark. Great to be with you here from Silicon Valley. This is a really interesting story. You know, first of all, we do want to know, by the way, in that island in the Maldives, does Uber exist on that island? We need to find out that first. Before anyone buys that island, need to check that out, whether Uber has a service there. But moving on to this story, we're seeing Uber fight this on multiple fronts. You look at France, you look at other countries, in Asia, South Korea, a big issue there for Uber, and back here on the home front, multiple cities having issues. But for the taxi industry, I want to see the taxi industry thrive, but this is not the way. The way to success is not by suing or legal action. The music industry is a great case study of what not to do. Suing university students when downloading stuff from Napster was not the way to success for the music industry. And the same thing here. If the taxi industry, the yellow cab industry want to survive and thrive, they need now counter with their own technology. Dashride.com, for example, is a piece of software that taxis can use to make their own Uber. That's how they should be fighting this, not in the court of law or not in the legislative realm.
Right. Well, that does sound like there's going to be some upfront investment there as well. Look, when it comes down to it, Jack, people are not Uber agnostic. They're either pro-Uber or anti-Uber. How does or what does Uber do to turn perhaps some government officials into pro-Uber fans?
Well, the fact is the customer has voted. Uber is a great service. It's a service loved by millions of people. It makes their lives easier. They're using it in all kinds of ways. And Uber is going to not only offer more dispatch in terms of moving people around, it's now getting into Uber Rush, which moves packages around, Uber Groceries, and so on. So this is a company on the growth plan. Again, my suggestion to folks, either in legislators or in terms of taxes, is to think about business models that can offer equal or better services. So it's all about, end of the day, the user experience and the customer service. The feedback loop that you see in Uber, when you can give a rating to that driver, that is critical in improving that service. We need the same now for the yellow cab industry.
Jack, it's David Gura, a reporter here in New York, and I'm just curious, you know, you mentioned that the taxi industry could use some reform, could adopt some of this technology. To what extent do you think the horse is out of the barn? You have Uber with such widespread, really dramatic growth here in the city. Can taxis catch up right now?
You know, there's going to be opportunities for different kinds of services. So, for example, right now, Uber doesn't have any pre-reservation, so it's all on demand. You can imagine some fleets decide they want to jump the gun and get ahead to reservations. You can have some reservation type of customers. Customers do want that, and Uber doesn't offer that right now. You can have services focused on moving kids around in a very, very safe way. That could be another service. So the fleet guys have to start thinking creatively about opportunities. While Uber is very successful, and it's great to see the success of an American startup now going global, it's also, there's still opportunities out there as you look at the total opportunity of moving people around.
Jack, when David did his report earlier last hour, he was telling us about it seemed like a political ad. They had David Plouffe come in, and they had some of these Uber drivers on TV during the commercial saying, in a sense, Mayor de Blasio, don't take food off of my table. Don't penalize my family. What did you think of that strategy?
You know, Uber is a very aggressive company, a company that knows what it's doing. It's hired some great talent, David Plouffe being one of them. So they're really smart in what they're doing. But again, the big picture is this. We know the case studies. We know what happened to the music industry. We know what happened to the book industry. We've seen this movie before. This is not the first time that we're looking at these kind of clashes between incumbents and the disruptors. And the fact is, if you want to win as the incumbent and come back and fight, You've got to do it with the customer in mind and with your own technology. Fighting in the court of law and fighting ultimately these political cases, this is not the way it's gonna go down well for you.
Right.
So that's really where we need to go. And the big picture is there's a big opportunity set across America now for more companies to come in, more startups to come in. Even as big as Uber is, you're going to see more innovation because the fact is people no longer want to drive themselves. They want the convenience of mobility on demand.